There are so many causal factors to bone loss. Bone loss is so multifaceted with hundreds of mechanisms that are going to stimulate or support bone breakdown, bone buildup. And so one pill to take care of one of those aspects does not manage everything else. Welcome to Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast. I am Debi Robinson, your host and guide on your Stronger Bones lifestyle journey. Hello. In this episode of Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast, I would like to discuss the possibility of osteoporosis being reversible. So, bone loss is definitely reversible. Now, osteoporosis, the diagnosis of osteoporosis is when you have a DEXA scan score of negative 2.5 or greater. So once you go into the 2.5 or greater range, you're in the disease state of bone loss, which is called osteoporosis. Previous to that, it is osteopenia. So when we talk about reversing, let's talk about reversing bone loss. And yes, in many cases, for those of you that happen to be close to the negative 2.5, you can reverse osteoporosis, going from a disease state to a state of bone loss that's not technically termed a disease yet. So I want to make that clarification because I always say that bone loss is reversible and osteoporosis is reversible. And I'm going to speak today as to why I say that and why that is a possibility. But I want you to also realize that it's not about getting out of osteoporosis. It's really focusing on the bone loss component of your state of health. Because if you can reverse bone loss, you go against aging. If you can even stop the progression of bone loss, you're beating aging. Because every year there should be a certain percentage of bone loss as we age. And if you can even halt that process and never lose bone from now on, you're beating aging every year or every DEXA scan that you have a test. So just for clarification's sake, wanted to share this wisdom with you because I think it's what really helps us realize that we have so much more control over our bone health than we thought we did. And this is what I notice when I have my conversations with ladies that contact me in my discovery calls, that maybe they've just received a bone score, maybe osteoporosis or osteopenia, quite often osteoporosis. That's definitely a scarier diagnosis to receive. And then also partnered with that quite often is a recommendation for medications. And many of the women that I work with are women that are naturally minded and want to hope that there is something that they can do to avoid medications or to not even take medications. So it is something that I would like to share and raise your awareness or educate you on what all of the terminology means and what really do you have control over. I like to use the words reversible because it is reversible. Bone loss is reversible, and in some cases, osteoporosis is reversible. And so even just to begin with that, I like to share a different perspective on osteoporosis than is out there. There's a lot of myths around osteoporosis, and I think the greatest myth of all when it comes to osteoporosis is we think of osteoporosis as a progressive degenerative disease that happens with aging, that there's no way around it, that this is what's going to happen, that it's an inevitable part of aging. And that is not true because our lifestyle and other factors contribute to bone loss. And so when we uncover what are those contributing factors, what are the pieces of the puzzle that you have that may be missing that are contributing to bone loss? Osteoporosis is not a one pill fix all disease because to just go after osteoporosis with a pill, they have different intentions. One class of pills is to stop bone breakdown so that your bones are breaking down because they're trying to clean up so that more bone tissue could be created. So we actually need that process to occur. And then there's anabolic or bone building drugs. Now that sounds great. Yeah, give me a drug that will build my bones. But as with any medication that we take, there are side effects and consequences. And the consequences might not always be understood right away. They might be something that happens later on in life. And when I think about the women that I have conversations with, Some, especially of the younger women, maybe women in their 50s that are diagnosed with osteoporosis or osteopenia, or even in their 40s, they have someone in their family, an aunt or even a parent or a sibling, that maybe has taken medications and had some negative side effects. So whether that was some of the digestive negative side effects, or in some cases, the osteonecrosis of the jaw where the jawbone disintegrates, or a femoral fracture, an atypical femoral fracture that is caused by some of the bisphosphonates. So when you have that in your life, that experience, that is a driver for many women to say, wait a minute, what can I do? What's in my control? And the thing about medications, whether it's one class or the other, is that there are so many causal factors to bone loss. Bone loss is so multifaceted with hundreds of mechanisms that are going to stimulate or support bone breakdown, bone buildup. And so one pill to take care of one of those aspects does not manage everything else. It's like trying to fill up the bathtub, leaving the plug out, where you're never going to fully get yourself healed. And when we use medications without looking for root causes or looking for the why, then we don't actually really solve the puzzle. And that's why you need to jump from one medication to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's not a one pill fix all disease. Now, I am so passionate about bone health because I had a collapsed hip joint in my 50s. I know what it's like to not be able to move, to not rely on your bones, and also to be in the mind. I used to go into my body with my mind and wonder, what's happening right now? Are they weak right now? What's happening? And so the mind component of all of this, I want to share this information today because I want you to start thinking of osteoporosis differently, because that can be very liberating when you realize that there are alternatives, that there are other things that we can do when it comes to our bone health, and that the conventional approach to osteoporosis has been all wrong. So I would like to share what is osteoporosis, or what is, well, osteoporosis is the disease state, but even the precursor to that, osteopenia. So osteoporosis is not like Alzheimer's. It is not like rheumatoid arthritis. It is not like multiple sclerosis. It is not like Parkinson's. Those diseases are considered progressive degenerative disorders or diseases. And in many cases, there is no cure and they just keep getting worse and worse. Now, that's what we've always thought of when we think of osteoporosis, that I'm getting older, that I'm in menopause, and this is what happens as you age. This is what happens with being a female. This is what happens in menopause. Osteoporosis is more like diabetes type 2 or heart disease or obesity or inflammatory bowel disease. That's what osteoporosis is like. Those diseases are metabolic diseases. They are lifestyle-based diseases. And you may even know somebody in your life that has reversed type 2 diabetes, reversed heart disease, reversed obesity, reversed irritable bowel. These are all diseases that can be reversed. And osteoporosis is just like them. It's a metabolic disease with many contributing factors. And this is what makes it possible to slow down, to stop, and to reverse bone loss, and even to reverse osteoporosis. How do you do that? You need to adopt the lifestyle. The lifestyle that you adopt is changing your diet, eating foods that build bones, stop eating foods that dissolve bones, moving your body every day. And when you get a diagnosis, more often than not, fear stops you from moving. And I hear this all the time in conversations I have with women. Well, I stopped playing pickleball, or I don't work out like I used to, or I'm scared to do this, or I'm scared to do that. And I'm worried about going on hikes. I'm worried about walking. I'm worried about bending over for something. I'm worried about twisting. I'm worried about this. And when you are worried like that and you're cautious, you're actually moving less. And when you move less, your body or your bones or don't think that they need to be as strong for you, because you'll start to lose muscle mass. And when you lose lean skeletal muscle mass, then the bones will also respond by not needing to be at the state that they were when you were in a stronger state. So activities of daily living that we do, whether that's walking around our house, climbing stairs, moving from one room to the next, or even getting out of our car to go into the supermarket, walking around the supermarket, maybe without pushing a basket. I know that when I had my own hip issues and I had a collapsed hip joint and then I had my hip replacement, I know that I used to lean on the basket in the stores because it felt safe. It felt safe to do that. So the things that you start to look for safety are actually contributing to more bone loss because we're moving less. So when you have this information that osteoporosis is not a progressive degenerative disease, osteoporosis is a metabolic lifestyle-based disease, then you go out and you learn what is the lifestyle that I need to make and build strong, good quality, fracture-proof bones. That's what you need to search for, the lifestyle. And it is not this supplement, that supplement, a vibration plate here, a exercise vest here. It's not one thing, and it's not all of those things. It is everything you do all day, every day, the way you move, the way you think, and the way you eat, the way you show up for yourself, the way that you manage stress, the way that you implement self-care into your daily life. That is what you need. It's multifaceted. That's why it's not a one pill fix all, because you can't just go at it from one angle. If you have a diagnosis of osteoporosis, you are not doomed. This is not an old person's disease. It is not out of your control. It is so in your control. And so what you need to do is you need to learn all you can about the lifestyle factors. And yes, then that opens up a whole can of worms about supplementation and all of these different things that are out there. There's so many shiny objects. And when I do intakes with women, I look over the list of supplements that I see from them, or even in our conversations, and I hear about this program that they tried, or that program, or they're going to sign up for this exercise thing or that exercise thing. And then I circle back with these ladies. Many times these women are in my life for years, and this didn't work, or they stopped doing that because it was too expensive. And that's another thing. A lot of these things are really expensive. Now, where I would suggest that you spend your money is to do a very customized, individualized approach to your bone health. And if you're going to do that, you're going to hire a functional health coach that specializes in bone health, which there's not very many of us out there. And this is not just to promote myself, because there are other people in the space. I think Irma Jennings, that is an osteoporosis patient advocate, is a fantastic person to look at, to search for. And there are some other people, but be leery of any kind of DIY, which means do it yourself, paying for a big program where you have to then watch all these recorded videos. Because when were those videos recorded, there might be new information out there. And it's really, really important that you can get your questions answered, and get your questions answered by a person that is the specialist or the expert in the field. So that's another important thing as well, is to make sure that you actually have access to people, whether that's in a Facebook group or a community, and the programs that you are looking into. I think that the best way, if you want to look at the multifaceted aspect of your bone health, is to do functional labs. And then you're going to work with a functional health coach, and that's going to definitely be a little bit more expensive. Although I do actually have options where you can come to my live group classes as a group without running labs and learn, because I want to be there. I want to guide you. I want to answer your questions. I want to give you as much information as possible so that you can make the best decisions as possible. So osteoporosis is not a progressive degenerative disease, not an old person's disease, not something that we are doomed to have as women that are going through menopause. It is not. And yes, there's primary osteoporosis, which is typically females in menopause. Certain body types and ethnicity can have a higher tendency towards osteoporosis. And there's secondary causes. And all of those secondary causes, known and unknown. We know some of them, but there's a lot that are unknown. And for me, my work that I do is revealing all the unknown contributing factors, which the gut plays such an integral role into that. So really researching what's the state of your gut, your diet, that's where you need to focus your energy, not on buying and grasping for the shiny objects. Working on your posture and your alignment, making sure every day you're standing up tall, strengthening your muscles of posture and alignment. That is a critical aspect as well. So I look at gut as a very important healing zone in order to make sure that internally you can find the balance that builds good quality fracture proof bones. And then the other aspects are making sure you're sleeping well, managing your stress. There's a lot of stress that contributes to bone loss, and this can be stress currently in your life or stress you've managed your entire life. So looking at stress, managing stress, learning stress management techniques, refining your diet. And that can be confusing as well because there's all the controversy out there now. Look at the studies and the research of whoever is saying what they're saying. Make sure the study, was it done on men? Was it done on mice? How many people were in the study? What other variables played a role? Is that you? Do you see yourself in that study? So diet, rest, you've got to get sleep. You've got to take breaks during the day. If you were to go on your computer or your cell phone all day long without plugging it in, it would run out of energy. You do the same thing. We run out of energy. And guess what? Your body needs energy to build cells, to build bone cells, muscle cells, to facilitate digestion and all of the things that are important when it comes to bone health. And supplementation and the right supplements. Stop wasting your money going out there and buying supplements. A lot of these bone building formulas that are out there, look at what is the premises behind it. Who is behind the research that's being done? There's some supplements we need. There's ratios that we need. I find it very hard to find one bone formula that I can use with my clients. I often have to use many different types of supplements in order to get the numbers that we need for each. So always trying to eat your as nutrient dense food as possible and then supplements. But if you do not have a healthy gut, you are not going to digest, absorb, and assimilate those nutrients. So that can be a big main puzzle piece for many women, is to find out what's happening with your digestion, your absorption, and your assimilation. And the best way to do this is to run functional labs, or even to learn to look at symptomology. If you're not able to afford running functional labs, to look at symptomology and then correlate that between foods you should eat and shouldn't eat, and kind of become your own health coach and customize your diet. So the pillars of bone health are the movement piece, the mindset piece, the diet piece, supplement for support, sleep plays a critical role, and living in a very joyful space in your life, making sure that you are creating the life of your dreams, managing whatever you can, controlling whatever you can't, or not, or letting go of whatever you can't control. And I'd like to end with this. I want this thought to be in your head. I want to empower you, to have you realize that yes, you can slow down, stop, and reverse bone loss, and in many cases, osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a lifestyle disease. It is a metabolic disease, like diabetes type 2, like obesity, like irritable bowel syndrome, and is something that you have control over. So look at my website if you'd like to join my next Healthy Gut, Healthy Bones program. Whether you run labs or not, you'll learn a ton of information. I want to put you in the driver's seat of your own health and your own bone health. I want to empower you to realize that yes, you can slow down, stop, and reverse your bone loss. In today's episode, I discuss the possibility of slowing down, stopping, and reversing bone loss, and in many cases, reversing osteoporosis, because osteoporosis is a metabolic disease and a lifestyle disease that is in our control. I've created a program called Healthy Gut, Healthy Bones. You can join the program, not running any labs, at a lower cost for a 3-month program, 90 days to turn the ship around on your bone loss. Or you can work with me privately or one of my team members to run functional labs and uncover your why to bone loss. Because when you can learn your why or whys, what are the contributing factors, then you have control to do something about your bone health. I hope to see you in one of my next programs. Look at the link below or look on my website for my next group program. And I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much for listening to Stronger Bones Lifestyle Podcast. Bone loss is not an inevitable part of aging. We don't have to just wait for it to happen. There is so much that you can do. And that is what you will learn each week on the show. Go to my website, debirobinson.com, if you want more information about what was shared in today's episode. At the bottom of this episode in the show notes, there will be links to whatever was shared. Please subscribe to this podcast. Share this podcast with your friends, your family, or any women that you think may be interested or benefit from the information we're sharing. Please rate the podcast. And if you have any questions you'd like asked or answered, I would love to hear from you. Let's do this, ladies. Let's change the way the world views osteoporosis and slow down, stop, or reverse our bone loss, take charge, and show other ladies what is possible. Thank you so much for joining me.